We all know that the solar system has 8 planets, but what if I told you that there is actually a ninth planet? No, I'm not talking about Pluto, but a Neptune-like body in the outer solar system that would be considered a planet. Unfortunately, this planet only exists in theories. We've never actually found it, and there have been several searches, both in the past and present, to try to find this mysterious ninth planet, but up until now, we've just never found it. One of the most famous searches, if not the most famous search, was that of Percival Lowell in the early 20th century. Lowell is actually the astronomer that came up with the Planet X theory. Now the question is, if we still haven't found the ninth planet after so many decades of searching, why do so many astronomers still believe in its existence? And why did astronomers in the past even begin believing in it? And probably the most important question of them all, does Planet X actually exist? Let's look into it. Although the most well-known search for a planet beyond Neptune was that of Percival Lowell, the idea that a planet in the outer solar system exists has been around long before Lowell's search. In fact, the belief that a ninth planet exists dates back to before the discovery of the eighth planet. The existence of Neptune was hypothesized by French astronomer Urbain Le Verrier in the mid-19th century after he found irregularities in Uranus's motion. Although Le Verrier believed that only one planet was the cause of these irregularities, some astronomers believed that one planet alone could not cause them. Hence the belief that a ninth planet exists. Neptune was discovered in 1846, proving that Le Verrier's hypothesis was correct. This of course fueled the belief in the existence of a ninth planet, and so several searches were conducted by different astronomers after the discovery of Neptune in order to try and find it. Some astronomers tried to predict the position of this planet, and there are even some reported observations of irregularities in objects in the sky that would support the existence of a ninth planet. However, upon further investigation, no planet was found. The searches went on from the mid-1800s to the early 1900s, which brings us to Percival Lowell. Percival Lowell was a rich astronomer and mathematician from Boston, Massachusetts, who, like many astronomers before him, found irregularities in the motions of Uranus and Neptune, and, again, like many astronomers before him, believed it was due to the existence of a ninth planet, which he called Planet X, and so, in 1906, he began his famous search to find this Planet X. Unlike many of the astronomers that searched for this hypothetical planet before him, Lowell was determined to find it. And when I say determined, I mean he was determined. He had built his own observatory around a decade prior, which gave him an advantage over most astronomers that, didn't have their own observatories. He put together a group of computers, no, not these computers, in order to assist him in making the necessary calculations regarding the properties and position of Planet X. His fortune allowed him to invest in the best instruments, and if he found that any of his instruments were not good enough, he would buy better ones and would invest in the newest technology at the time in hopes of increasing his chances of finding Planet X. Lowell and his team of computers estimated the planet's mass to be approximately 7 times that of Earth, and they used calculations to try and predict the position of Planet X in the same way that Le Verrier accurately predicted the position of Neptune before its discovery a few decades prior. Lowell would then observe those predicted positions, and when he got some amazing new equipment, he revised his calculations and found new possible locations. Throughout his decade-long search, Lowell invested a lot of money, and even more time than money, as he would spend countless hours in his observatory studying the sky. Unfortunately, Lowell passed away in 1916 before he could complete his search. He had basically dedicated the last years of his life towards finding Planet X. Following Lowell's death, the observatory engaged in a lengthy legal battle with Lowell's widow, Constance Lowell. Constance was not happy that the observatory got the larger sum of Lowell's money in his will, so she filed a lawsuit to try to break the will. She got Harcourt Amory, who Percival Lowell had chosen to be the sole trustee of the observatory, to resign as trustee and replaced him with Guy Lowell, thinking she could control him and hence control the observatory. Guy instead fought against Constance in the ongoing legal battle, which was eventually settled in 1925 in favor of the observatory. A decade-long battle in which over $1 million was spent by Lowell's observatory made it difficult to continue Lowell's search for Planet X, and so the search had to be paused for quite a while. Guy Lowell served as a sole trustee until his death in 1927, after which Percival Lowell's nephew, Roger Lowell Putnam, became the new trustee. Fortunately for the search, Roger had a huge love for astronomy which he gained thanks to his uncle, and so he decided to complete the search for Planet X. Despite the observatory's limited funds, he ordered the building of a new telescope and astrograph which would increase the chances of finding Planet X. He convinced Percival Lowell's brother, Abbot Lawrence Lowell, to contribute $10,000 towards the building of the new telescope, and even spent $6,000 of his own money to pay for the replacement of one of the components of the lens. Now that the observatory had some fancy new equipment, someone was needed to carry out the search. And so, in 1929, the observatory's director at the time, V.M. Slipher, assigned this task to a young astronomer by the name of Clyde Tombaugh. Tombaugh would search for Planet X by taking a long exposure photo of one section of the sky and then another one of the same section a week or so apart. He would then compare those two photos using a blink comparator created by the German optics company Zeiss. A blink comparator is essentially a form of microscope that rapidly switches between two pictures, allowing the user to spot any differences between them. Tombaugh would look for changes in positions of objects in the sky, changes which would make them potential planets. Although this seems like a fairly simple task, it was actually a long and tiresome one, as Tombaugh would spend up to a week comparing a pair of photos. Despite this, the search's conclusion came relatively early. On the 18th of February in 1930, while comparing photos taken on the 23rd and 29th of January, one of the objects whose position had changed caught his eye. Its motion was different than that of the other space objects, which made it a potential planet. He submitted his finding to V.M. Slipher, who sent it to the Harvard College Observatory on the 12th of March. This object that Tombaugh had found was actually considered a planet, and so, the next day, exactly 149 years after the discovery of Uranus, and on Percival Lowell's 75th birthday, the discovery of this new planet was publicly announced, and the solar system gained a 9th planet. What was this planet that Tombaugh had discovered? Pluto. So, the initial thought was that Pluto is Planet X, but there was one problem. Pluto didn't exhibit the same properties as the other planets in our solar system. This led to a lot of astronomers questioning not just whether Pluto is Planet X, but whether it's a planet at all. As one would expect, this led to speculation that maybe Pluto isn't Planet X. The issue is that no one could confirm nor deny this, as no one knew what Pluto's exact mass was. There were, of course, estimates, but all those estimates were rough, as they were obtained using Pluto's albedo. Its definite mass was unknown. Although those estimates made Pluto out to be larger than it actually is, it still would have been too small to be Planet X, and this kept the speculations going. All those speculations were finally put to rest in 1978 when Pluto's largest moon, Charon, was discovered. The discovery of Charon was a significant one, as astronomers could now use the data about the orbits of Pluto and Charon, along with Newton's version of Kepler's third law, to calculate an accurate mass for Pluto. When Pluto's mass was calculated, well, it was safe to say that Pluto wasn't Planet X. If you recall from earlier in this video, it was mentioned that Lowell estimated Planet X's mass to be 7 times that of Earth's. Pluto's mass, on the other hand, is roughly a fifth of our own moons. Pluto not being Planet X meant the real Planet X is still out there in the solar system waiting to be discovered. This led to a few searches in the late 70s and 80s to try and find Planet X, or at least find what is causing the irregularities in Uranus' motion. The search for Planet X was put to an end once and for all in 1992 due to this space probe, Voyager 2. In 1989, Voyager 2 flew by Neptune, and while doing so obtained a more accurate mass for Neptune, which was significantly less than what was previously calculated. When the newly calculated mass was accounted for in calculations by A.M. Standage 3 years later, the irregularities that Lowell and the astronomers before him had observed were not observed anymore. This meant that those observed irregularities, which led to the Planet X theory, were not due to the gravity of a large planet beyond Neptune, but they were due to a miscalculation of Neptune's mass. There was no planet causing irregularities in Uranus' motion because there never were any irregularities to begin with. Fast forward to the mid-2010s, over a century after Lowell began his search. A few astronomers, most notably Konstantin Batygin and Mike Brown from the California Institute of Technology, noticed irregularities in the orbits of a few trans-Neptunian objects. Their initial theory was that the number of objects in the Kuiper belt is enough to cause those irregularities, but that theory was disproved as the Kuiper belt's mass would need to be significantly larger than it actually is. So, they landed on the 9th planet theory. An advantage that they had over the 19th and 20th century astronomers is the possession of a computer simulation which can act as solid evidence for the existence of this hypothetical planet. By running these simulations, they showed that the presence of a planet beyond Neptune would have the same effects on those objects as what was observed. Although it has been nicknamed Planet X, calling it that would be inaccurate, as it is not the same planet that Percival Lowell had searched for. So, Batygin and Brown have given it the simple title Planet 9. As of now, Planet 9 has not yet been found, but it also has not been disproved. Given the size of our solar system and the portion of it yet to be discovered, it's not unlikely that there exists a planet beyond Neptune that we haven't discovered yet. The only thing that we can do now is continue searching and hope that we actually find this mysterious planet so that our solar system would have 9 planets again.